Hello card fighters, welcome to a new video. This time we go from the abyssal shadows into the holy wings of Angel Feather with the premium Ramiel deck. Without any further ado, let's get started. This deck is quite consistent due to it being able to tutor the deck for cards to damage your hand or field, being able to recur cards even to ease up the use of cards in the deck and perform its strategy which revolves around having same card names in your damage zone as your rear guards. Its pressure and playmaking comes from effects that give you power buffs, multi-attacks, and utility by using the damage zone to your advantage. In most of your games, you'll have an aggressive turn 3+, and the resource management is amazing as even effects with high costs mitigate their own requirements, and it can do many things with the face-up guards in the damage zone. However, the deck suffers if the opponent outrushes you as it won't be able to withstand for long. There's also the fact that its most powerful finisher requires you to get to turn 5 due to many factors in premium, though you can use it earlier if the opponent slips up. To speed things up, you'll also rely on having a few heal triggers in hand for G-Guardians. Here is the deck list. It's important to mention that the weaknesses previously mentioned are covered for in multiple ways using the strengths and tools of this deck. As we look more into it, this will start to make sense. Ramiel embraces utility, and that utility is what will lead you ever closer to victory. For the chief of this medical deck, we should start by talking about Prophecy's Celestial Ramiel. Ramiel has an auto ability that is when this unit on Vanguard Circle attacks, for a Soul Blast she will countercharge one and then restands rear guards with the same card name as cards in your damage zone, giving them plus 5,000 power. This is very effective early on and when going first, as this allows you to set up for early multi-attack and consequently early rush. The other skill is a Vanguard and Rear Guard auto effect that on the ride phase allows you to place the top card of the deck to the damage zone if you have 4 or more cards in the damage zone. If you do, you get to pick any card from your damage zone and put it into your hand. The card you choose to add to your hand for this may be face down as well, which effectively means you just got a countercharge off. If this unit was on rear guard circle when you activated this skill, it goes into your soul. This second skill essentially makes this a late game stride skill with a limit break restriction that works on both vanguard and rear guard circles. It provides some useful utility to fix your hand, and interacts with cards that gain effects when a new card is placed into your damage zone, such as the frontal celestial Evangel. That being said, our next grade 3 might be a lot more explosive as a card, being an ideal finisher played after a few turns. The finisher in question is none other than Ramiel Reverse, who gives you a countercharge one at the beginning of the battle phase and then locks all rear guards with different card names than the cards in your damage zone. When rear guards are locked, they're no longer considered to be units. This is important for the next part of her skill. For every 2 of your rear guards that did not get locked, you choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. After that, this unit gains plus 20,000 power. If you have 4 or more rear guards, you activate the retire and power gain of this skill twice. As you can tell, this first skill is meant to give you some resources, some muscle behind your vanguard attack, and weaken the opponent's formation a bit in the process. Her second skill is what helps her finish games for you. When Ramiel Reverse on Vanguard Circle attacks, you can Soul Blast one grade 3 card to give this unit one extra drive check. Your opponent must then choose to pay or not to pay a cost of Counterblast 2. If they did not pay the cost or were unable to, the opponent can only call cards from hand as guardians by calling the same number of cards or more as the number of cards in your damage zone. Combine this with your boss L stride, and you can potentially swing for 52,000 power and force your opponent to guard with 7 or more cards from hand. With a booster, this power threshold can reach 60,000 or even higher, making it very threatening. The grade 3s are not the things to look at however, as we have black mapping Salaphiel and Candle Celestial Sariel. Salaphiel gets 10,000 power when a new card is placed into your damage zone. This skill also works if you took a damage earlier this turn before you called her to rear guard, so keep that in mind. Her other effect is that she heals 1 and deals 1 damage to you for a soul blast. This can activate several units' skills including her own, and lets you fish for extra trigger checks. Sariel is a tutor for a counter blast and a soul blast as it searches the deck for 1 normal unit and places it in the damage zone, healing 1 in the process. In addition, she gets boost when 1 or less cards are face down in the damage zone, making her both a great tutor for cards and a powerful booster as well. Angel Feather loves to interact with the damage zone, and these cards benefit from just that. When placed from hand, Wild Shot Celestial Raguel allows you to call a unit from drop zone to rear guard if you took it damage earlier this turn for Counterblast 1. This helps you use cards you discarded or healed for effects that are now in the drop zone. Danielle on the other hand has a skill that when she's placed from hand, you may discard a card to call a card with the same card name as a card in your damage zone from the deck to rear guard circle, and if you didn't call a Celestial you have to Counterblast 2. This is a strong archetypal effect that allows you to call based on what you add to your damage, making it versatile and strong. The fact that the deck contains a lot of Celestials adds more value to this card and more reason to run it in your deck. If you want to be cheeky, you can even call a grade 3 unit using this skill when your Vanguard is still grade 2. So now let's talk about some units that gain power. Black Call Necrizzer Standard V Series. Check top 5 cards of your deck to add a grade 3 unit to your hand. This improves consistency in getting your ride targets and stride fodder, and doubles down as a deck thinner. It also has the useful ability that it gains 5,000 power if either player took a damage this turn. Very easy to achieve. Use her as a 13,000 power booster or attacker. The other card you see here is Frontal Celestial Melgel. She functions mostly as an offensive power tool for the deck, increasing both her own power and that of your Vanguard by quite a lot depending on the plays you make during your turn. As a cherry on top, she can be used defensively on your opponent's turn by increasing your Vanguard's power. Sometimes just 2,000 power is enough to make a difference in guard value needed for incoming attacks. Spine Celestial Raphael is a rather peculiar unit that has some strong functions in this deck. If you're able to ride her as a grade 1 Vanguard, you'll be able to swap a card from hand and damage zone during your grade 2 turn. For her second skill, you may Counterblast 1 and bind Raphael to add the top card of your deck to your damage. At the end of your turn, you can send Raphael from the bind zone to the drop zone to pick any card from your damage zone and add it to hand. At face value this is just more tutoring, but there's more to it than that. This unit allows you to activate more skills based on placing a card in damage zone this turn, and it can prevent your opponent from successfully recovering 1 damage when they damage check a heal trigger, provided you temporarily have more damage than they do. Bellyful Med's Angel is another damage zone swapper who also provides you with a bit of extra soul. This helps you pay for the costs of cards in this deck and allows you to continue your plays on the long run. Let's continue the trend of the last page by mentioning 2 more supporting grade 1 units. Additional Angel has a cost of Soul Blast 1 and sending herself to your damage zone to then call a face-up grade 3 unit to rear guard. If you have no face-up grade 3 unit as a call target, you'll simply be adding a damage to yourself. This may sound bad at first, but with Ramiel Reverse and Boss L in your deck as finishers, you'll find yourself happy to have damage adders locked and loaded when needed. Nursing Celestial Neril provides the deck with more soul charging options similar to Bellyful Med's Angel. At the beginning of your main phase, she sends herself to damage zone as long as you have a Celestial Vanguard to draw a card and send a grade 2 or less face-up card in the damage zone into your soul. She also has an act ability where you can Soul Blast 1 to search your deck for up to 1 Celestial unit that isn't in your damage zone yet, add it there, and shuffle your deck. Then, you send Neril to the soul. In total, this provides you 1 extra soul, helps you dig for pieces, and sets up your damage zone for combos. You also thin your deck by just 1 card more, and shuffle it too, As the final part of the main deck, we should discuss the trigger lineup and our starter. The starter I picked is your classic V-Series 1, when rode upon draw 1 and if you went second add a quick shield to your hand. This is always a solid choice in premium decks, and in this case you can always use the quick shield as discard fodder for your perfect guards or for your emergency celestial, Danielle. Speaking of perfect guards, we run 4 of the battle queue but no Sariel. The extra draws you can get are very nice, and this way we save slots in our grade 1 lineup. I choose to run 4 augment angel crits as crits just win you games and this card doubles down as a stride fodder. There's 3 stand triggers in the form of Surgery Angel. This stand trigger can send itself back to deckhand, allows you to get a pseudo drive check. Technically it does cost a counter blast but it refunds its own cost, so don't worry about that. With beatsticks like Frontal Celestial Melge Land Battledore Guard restrict with Parashel, a well-timed stand trigger can be very scary. As you would expect, we run the Heal Guardian at max copies because getting outrushed by the opponent hurts this deck a lot. She has less shield value than your standard 20,000 shield heal triggers, but the trade-off is worth it for sure. Last but not least we have the Overtrigger. The Keeler Overtrigger can be devastating as it gives your rear guards drive checks, but if you're worried about backing out you can opt to run the Cray Elemental Overtrigger instead. Moving on to the G-Zone, it has multiple finishers. One of them is Gavrail, a card that multi-attacks with cards from the damage zone. It has an act that once per turn heals 1 and deals 1 damage for a Soul Blast and flipping a card from the G-Zone, essentially being an extra drive check which helps it power up with any triggers checked. Its second skill however is its strongest aspect as, when it attacks it calls a card for each face-up card in the G-Zone. This can be utilized to call Sariel to tutor again, or can call Salaphiel to do an extra rescue check, essentially drive checking again. This also works well with Melge as by doing all this you essentially get plus 9,000 power on itself and the Vanguard. And that's just at a minimal. In the Premium Clan Collection 2022 we received Holy Seraph, Raphael and she immediately became a staple in all Premium Angel Feather decks. Her act ability lets you discard a card to choose up to 3 cards from your drop zone and from your circles other than Vanguard. Then send those cards to your damage zone. For each normal unit placed into the damage zone this way, your front row gains 10,000 power until end of turn, and for every trigger placed into the damage zone this way, Raphael gains an extra drive check until end of turn. For every card placed into the damage zone, you get to heal 1. The effect is simple to understand and offers a lot of value and versatility. You can set up your damage zone with ease, you can gain up to 2 in-card advantage or give your front row up to 30,000 extra power. The specific wording of the skill also allows this to circumvent all forms of lock since it doesn't specify unlock but rather putting cards on circles into a new zone. As the skill is an act, you can first call units such as Melge to rear guard, then profit from the free power gains. This strike can also function as a triple countercharge, which is insane, value many clans would kill for. All in all, an amazing unit and a terrific first stride, something Angel Feather needed for a long time. The only downside is she doesn't flip any G-Zone cards face down, so she doesn't help turbo into GB5 for Parashel. Speaking of the devil, or angel, in this case, Parashel provides Angel Feather a unique lose condition where you'll only lose after hitting 7 damage or even 8. Immediately the synergy with Ramiel reverses skill comes to mind when you consider she scales with the number of cards in your damage zone. This synergy by itself makes it worth using Parashel, and there's more. Her second skill has a very high cost of counterblast 4 to give you a battledore effect until the end of turn for all attacks. When you use it, your opponent must call cards from hand equal to the number of cards in your damage zone. Cards like Additional Angel and Spine Celestial Raphael will provide you extra damage to make this battledore effect even more lethal. Another offensive use of this card is that you can sit on higher damage than your opponent, denying them any chance of healing from heal triggers. This includes when they hit the 6th damage heal. The second skill of this card can hurt your opponent a lot, but the high cost means you'll mostly use it for kill turns or else you will struggle to refine the cost. Sometimes, simplicity is bliss. Evangel's Seraph, Raphael Mitra essentially allows you to heal 2 damage by paying 3 counterblasts, turning a card from your G-zone face up, and discarding 2 cards from hand. It's important to remember 2 of those 3 counterblasts will be refunded thanks to the healing. On the upside, this provides you some solid survival and turbos your generation break, count which accelerates your win condition. On the downside, this stride has no method at all to provide offense. You can rely on this card when you know the opponent is close to killing you and you just need to bide a bit more time until you unleash your own final turn against them. With the deck having a strong emphasis on Celestials, it's only fitting we include Holy Celestial, Raguel, into this deck. As part of her skill cost, she helps you set up the damage zone using a card from your hand. When she attacks, after paying the cost, you can bring out 2 new units from the damage zone that share the same name as your rear guards. The called units then gain 5,000 power. Your vanguard then takes 1 damage, allowing you to check a damage trigger. This creates solid multi-attacks with sizable columns, especially with units like Frontal Celestial, Melgeland Black Call, Necron Rear Guard. This is definitely meant for aggressive turns and lets you bash in the opponent. Super Mobile Hospital, Firmament Palace is arguably one of the best G-Guardians in the game. For 3 counterblasts and a Soul Blast, you can choose a card from your damage zone and call it to the Guardian Circle. That's right, you heal 1 damage during your guard phase and already refund 1 of those 3 counterblasts spent, as well as gain extra shield. This card works in tandem with perfect guards such as Battle Cupid Nosiel, allowing you to call a perfect guard even if the opponent has threatening skills that prevent guarding using cards from hand. If you somehow got your overtrigger stuck in the damage zone, you can tug it into the Guardian Circle and combine it with this card for 65,000 shield value. These 2 G-guards are rather self-explanatory. If you have a lot of face-down cards in damage zone, Holy Seraph Parashel can provide you a big shield. As a happy bonus, she circumvents abilities from your opponent's cards that prevent the activation of auto abilities thanks to her continuous ability. Black's Seraph, Eleleth is in some ways the polar opposite of Parashel. Eleleth gains shield value for every face-up card in your damage zone. Do note that Eleleth requires a Soul Blast and flips another G-Guardian face-up. This cost can't turbo your boss AL plays, but also means you lose out on a G-Guardian. Since the grade 3 boss units in this deck love to keep the damage face up, Eleleth works very well with this deck overall. Parashel works well when you've used counterblast heavy skills, and most of your damage zone has been flipped face down. To conclude, the deck has a lot of aggression and utility, rushing opponents being its strong suit. It can mix stall and aggression very well, and has multiple finishers and survival tools to enhance its game plan. Marker generation by riding each turn helps to protect you, yes pun intended, and can get a hand advantage in damage control. This makes it great against multi-attack and aggressive decks, and being able to tutor for its own consistency helps a lot. However, it can still lose to decks that can interrupt its aggression and outrush it, like Royal Paladin, Shadow Paladin, Kajaro, Narukami and Gold Paladin. That being said, even so those decks will struggle if you played towards the strength of this deck. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you'd like to support me, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this. I enjoyed making this deck and testing it, and making this was a blast. But for now, I'll see you in the next video.